What's up guys, this is Miasin. So one new Magical Musketeer card has been announced, and honestly it's such an incredible one that it deserves its own video. Yeah, it's the only card that we'll be reviewing today, but trust me, it is worth it. So yeah, Magical Musket Mastermind Caspar, it's a Link 2 Light Fiend. Of course it's a Light Fiend just like every other Magical Musketeer monster, and you already know what Light Fiend means. It means that every single one of your monsters is full Fiendsmith combo. Anyways, 2000 attack, top, bottom, 2 monsters, including a Light Fiend. This is quite impressive because it means that you can bridge into Magical Musket without utilizing any Magical Musketeer cards. So you can open a hand of only Fiendsmith stuff, and you can get there. I will be coming back very soon as to why this is important. Anyways, first effect once per turn. If this card is Link Summon, you can take 2 Magical Musketeer cards from your hand and or deck, including a monster. You special summon one of those monsters and you set the other card to your opponent's field. So yeah, you can technically get like a monster and a spell or trap, and then you summon the monster on your field, and you set the spell or trap on your opponent's field. It kind of doesn't really make too much sense unless there's a way for you to bounce back cards from like the spell and trap zone to the hand. Like if Giant Shroonade or like whatever, Hate Shroonade or something, those cards, if they existed into the game, I mean Hate Shroonade is a thing, it's just that nobody plays it. But Giant Shroonade and stuff, that would have been really cool, you know, like you set a spell or trap like from your deck to your opponent's spell and trap zone just to bounce it back so that you can use it. That's awesome, and it is something that I can see maybe, you know, it could actually come up. But the real reason why this effect is good is because, again, you can utilize just 2, like, whatever, like a Fiendsmith monster and anything else, just like you would with, like, Moon of the Close Sky, and then you would, or sorry, Fiendsmith Sequence, and then, yeah, you would special summon, like, a Magical Musketeer monster from your deck. Could be Caspar, could be Starfire, or whatever. And then, if you have a spell or trap, then that's fantastic. You can utilize it and then get, like, a +1 off of your Magical Musketeer monster effect. And then you can turn that monster into Max. And then Max doesn't have to, like, I mean, its arrows are kind of irrelevant. You can just use this effect to either special summon Magical Musketeer monsters from your deck up to the number of spells and traps your opponent controls. So if you set a spell or trap card from your deck into your spell and let your opponent spell and trap zone, you're going to be able to special summon the Magical Musket there. Or you can add Magical Musketeer spells and traps with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls. So this effect used to kind of be impossible to resolve on turn 1, unless I guess you get hit by stuff like Izuna, Lupus, or Holy Sue, or Nibiru, whatever, those kinds of cards, or against like Dragon Tail. If they start setting spells and traps on your turn, you can use the effect to special summon 2 Magical Musketeer monsters from your deck. That's really interesting because, again, this wasn't the case a few years ago, but now there's so many, you know, hand traps that allow you to get monsters on your field, or even sometimes spells and traps on the field, as again we can see with Dragon Tail. So it really makes this card just make Magical Musketeer better. This is the way I see it. Now you've got way more consistency in your deck because Fiendsmith bridges into Magical Musketeer, and Magical Musketeer always bridges into Fiendsmith. And it really does increase like the overall ceiling that your cards already have. And I like this a lot. I think this is a fantastic effect. Now, the second effect, obviously, this is, you know, every single Magical Musketeer monster has this effect. Now, I will say something. Magical Musketeer Max, the Link one, it can only be summoned with a level 8 or lower Magical Musketeer monster. So you can't just like summon this and then effect, you get impermed and then turn it into the Link one. That's not gonna happen, unfortunately. It would have been really cool, but yeah, you can't do that. So if you only have Magical Musketeer cards, only Fiendsmith cards, and you get stopped on like this play very specifically, then you can't keep, you know, playing from there. That would have been insane. Imagine like you're playing into a full board and you just do that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think you can really play Link into the... Yeah, it's not really worth it. Link into the Frames is like an Exodia card in the Magical Musketeer deck. It's a card that allows you to just win completely unwinnable games. The card can't even be like responded to, I think. No, it can be negated, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is Link summoned this way. So yeah, you special summon a monster from the hand, negate its effect, then immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon a 1 Link monster using monsters you control. You can technically make like the Link 2. It's just that, ironically, this effect is actually weaker than the Link 1's effect if you're going second. But if you're going first, this is a better card overall because it makes it so that you're always going to be able to get value off of the Link 1, even if your opponent doesn't even have anything on the field, because you're giving something on your opponent's field. You know, you're either setting a monster so that you can search a spell or trap with Max, or you're setting a spell or trap so that you can special summon a monster with Max. That's pretty awesome. And also against certain decks, maybe summoning a monster or something is going to help you out. Your opponent absolutely has to imprint this because he's now going to have something on the field. You know, obviously you can say the same about like the Molchamis, Evenly, whatever. Those cards are maybe not going to have the same amount of value. That's pretty cool. But just watch out that you don't give like a lot of extra fodder to your opponent with a Forbidden Droplet. So sometimes like the extra body that you're giving to your opponent is pretty bad. And also if this is a mirror match, actually giving a Magical Musketeer card to your opponent is pretty bad. Your opponent could, I mean, imagine, I mean, obviously you're setting a monster, so at least you're not like summoning a face-up defense position Magical Musket, and then your opponent can start interrupting you on like turn 0 with spells and traps, but imagine, yeah, that would have been absolutely disgusting. But yo, I kind of want to see a Magical Musketeer hand trap now. Like you know, a Magical Musket that can just summon itself, and then, you know, you can use like your spells and traps, so it would be a hand trap that wouldn't hurt the opponent, but that would allow your spells and traps to be used on turn 0. I don't know, you guys let me know how you feel about this. And also there's one more thing that I wanted to say. Since this card doesn't utilize 2 monsters including a Magical Musket, but rather 2 monsters including a Light Fiend, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, like even before this card was announced, that Fiendsmith Lacrima could get unbanned because now the time rules are, you know, no longer the same, blah blah blah. But, you know, to me it didn't really make too much sense. However, if we start hurting like the Fiendsmith engine a little more, like if we ban Moon of the Close Sky, and if perhaps we limit Engraver or Tract or whatever, I can definitely see a world in which Lacrima could get unbanned, because again, like the burnt for 1200 damage, now it actually changes nothing. Like it's not really a real variable anymore. But Lacrima in Magical Musket is extremely good. Like it was involved in a lot of combos. So that, you know, not only being able to make like Caesar and DS Irae, it's not the same. Like it doesn't allow you to like extend into more Fiend plays. But now think of all the things that you can do with like the new cards. With the regular Lacrima, you can get like Paradise in rotation. That's pretty cool. You can summon either Requiem or Agnum Day on your opponent's turn. You could, I don't know, like you can make Abaoku, which wasn't the case like at the very start when the Fiendsmith engine was like initially, you know, announced. So like Abaoku, I think, never coexisted with Fiendsmith Lacrima, like the fusion monster. So again, that's why I think that there's a world in which Konami could actually just choose to keep the Fiendsmith engine around. When you think about it, it kind of did get power crept by the K9 engine, and now people aren't really, they're not really complaining about the Fiendsmith stuff anymore. They're really just complaining about like, I don't know, like, are they even like complaining about the new cards? I don't even know. It's more like, oh, the Alliance Insight decks, we're tired of them, even though like, it doesn't really matter too much. We just need like, you know, a good enough ban list, like again, like Paradise Smasher or whatever, those kinds of cards. They should get away, but yeah, it doesn't have to be like the biggest one. But yeah, if, like I said, if Fiendsmith Lacrima comes back, this deck could easily abuse it, and I can already think of like a bunch of combos in my head that would allow you to just draw, like turn a Fiendsmith Tract into a pretty big end board that would utilize this. So Magical Musketeer Fiendsmith, it already won YCS. I would not be shocked if it could win another one. That would be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know how you feel about Magical Musketeer Mastermind Caspar in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.